Welcome back to my channel. I'm James, and today we're gonna deep dive into the fog on 4K Ultra HD from Scream and Shout Factory, and we're going to be comparing this in this exclusive video to the fog from Studio Canal. Now this is my collector's edition SteelBook that I wanted to show off the differences between these, but we're going to be comparing actually the disc content and what actually image is present on both of these releases. This is a Studio Canal release that came out several years ago, and this is the brand new Scream and Shout Factory release that's coming out here in a few days. Now, this is another big exclusive video that you're only ever gonna find here on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to go down and give this video a thumbs up and a like for me. Hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. That way you never miss out on any of this exclusive or early content that I release only here on my YouTube channel. Now in this video, I'm gonna be doing my exclusive 4K versus 4K image comparisons to show you whether the Scream Factory and Shout Factory is actually an upgrade or change from the Studio Canal 4K release that was released before, and what Scream and Shout Factory did or didn't do that's different on their 4K release. Now at the end, I always wrap it up with my review scores of each release, and I'll give you individual review scores of both the Studio Canal and the Scream and Shout Factory 4K Ultra HD release, and let you know which one of these comes out on top as the winner and is the ultimate edition of the fog to own on 4K Ultra HD. So make sure to stick around to the end so you get my total sum up of review scores between both releases. Now to start off with, I'm going to show you the Studio Canal's original image presentation that's on these discs here. Now I own multiple editions of this because I was actually pretty excited when this came out, and that's why I bought the SteelBook and the regular edition. But as I've explained hundreds of times on this YouTube channel, the image you see above is the native image that's present on these discs, without all of the things you can do on your TV, like pumping up color saturation, contrast, making it way brighter of an image. Those are all things you can change on your TV, but this is the native image you see above that's actually present on these discs. So you know what the true difference is between each of the releases by what you see above. But keep in mind, YouTube always dumbs down from HDR10 and Dolby Vision to standard HDR. So what you see for both this release and for Scream and Shout Factory's release that we're gonna get to here in a minute, that HDR will actually look only better on your home TV when you watch it than what you see above, because the HDR presentation is actually dumbed down. But these images will give you a very good idea of which one comes out the winner, and I think you're going to be quite surprised by some of the things I discovered in my exclusive testing. Talking about the image here from the Studio Canal releases, basically it looked good, though I will say there are some things that stood out that I didn't realize as much when I originally watched this, but when I compare them side by side, became quite a bit more evident when you actually see them side by side. Now, showing you the Shout and Scream Factory release. This is the same image pulled from the disc of the Scream and Shout Factory release that was pulled from the Studio Canal release. And there is a noticeable difference on this title intro sequence. You can notice on the Scream and Shout Factory release that the white of where it says the fog is much more crisp and white overall. Whereas the Studio Canal's, it looks good, and I did think it looked good originally, but at the end you'll understand the difference between in my review score. But basically it did look good, but this looks quite a bit better, that the whites are much more crisp in it, which goes to the nits and actually how bright the HDR and Dolby Vision and the actual HDR transfer is on it. It actually has a much better brightness area in it for like whites and the lights to darks that stand out a bit better than they even did on the Studio Canal release. Now there's numerous reasons for that, and I'll get to those here in just a minute. Now, if after you get done watching this video, you do decide you want to pick up any of these editions from Shout or Scream Factory, or you want to pick up any of the Studio Canal 4K releases after you get done watching my review, I will have them all posted in the description section right below this video with Amazon links, and in the comment section below. When you click on those, it takes you straight out to Amazon. I've made it nice and easy for you. It's on sale for the same prices everywhere. Shout Factory and Scream Factory almost never really go on sale, so it's pretty much a standard price. So when you click on that, it'll ship anywhere worldwide. But if you do decide to pick any of these up, make sure to go down through one of those links in the description section or as a pinned comment in the comment section below. Click on that, takes you straight out to Amazon, and that does help to support this YouTube channel. So make sure if you're gonna buy it, you click through those links down below. Now both releases are presented in the aspect ratio of 2.35 to 1. They didn't change it between either one of these releases. You get the same aspect ratio between both of them. Nothing's cut down or changed between either one of them. Now both of the 4K Ultra HD releases, the one from Scream and Shout Factory and the one from Studio Canal, both are presented in a native 4K 2160p. So they both have that the same in the sense of that they both are native representations. On the Studio Canal release, it did have more instabilities in the grain. There's grain fluctuations. There's some instances of where there's grain blocking and clumping, where basically the grain is not as refined as it could have been. Now, there's reasons for that I'm going to get to here as well, but that's where there is some things on the Studio Canal release that you'll notice when you watch it that it looks good, but there is some instances of where you'll notice like grain clumping together and it kind of looks blocky in some instances. Well, the nice thing is what Scream and Shout Factory did is this actually has a much more refined and stable grain structure. And a lot of those instances where I noticed there was some blocking or some clumping of the film grain, that's gone on this, and it is more stable and just filmic looking overall, with that film grain just being much more refined and not so clumpy as it was on the Studio Canal release. Now I'm going to touch on why there is so many differences that I encountered between both releases. And basically when I did all of my testing, it kind of just started to add up and made a whole lot more sense. On the Shout and Scream Factory release, this is on a 4K disc that's a BD100. On the Studio Canal release, the 4K disc is a BD66. Now both of these discs for the 4Ks were region free, though the Blu-rays between both releases are region A locked for Scream and Shout Factory and region B locked for the Blu-ray on Studio Canal. So neither one kind of gets a one-up on the Blu-ray disc. But the 4K discs between both of these releases do make a big difference because Studio Canal's release is slightly more compressed than what Shout and Scream Factory did because they had much more room to work with the BD100 versus the BD66, which then applies to the next thing I'm going to talk about with the image here. Like I mentioned on the Studio Canal release, there was some issues with some slight compression. You notice it a lot more heavy later on in the film, especially like the scene where the cross is glowing, and you'll notice basically that the bit rate drops really bad. I mean, it drops down to like low below 20s on this Studio Canal release. And that has to do with the compression and the upload and everything they put onto these discs. Because of it being a BD66 and not having as much room to breathe and compressing it down to put it onto that disc, it caused some areas of major bitrate drops and compression that affect the stability of that image and the fluctuations, where you'll notice on the dark sides of your screen that the image will kind of fluctuate. I mean, it'll just move and it'll go like, it kind of looks like the grain fluctuations and things like that. Well, on the Scream and Shout Factory release, a lot of those are fixed and almost completely gone. Now, I'm not going to say that every single one of them is gone. There was a few throughout it that I did notice that were still there, but they were nowhere near as heavy as they were on the Studio Canal release. So overall, the image was so much more stable, even with those fluctuations that were outside of just the grain because of the compression that the Studio Canal had. This didn't have those issues at all. The instances of blocking that Studio Canal had were also completely gone on Shout and Scream Factory's release. And it really seems like in this case, kind of like what I talked about if you haven't checked out my Escape from New York exclusive comparison that I did on those. I compared Shout and Scream Factory's release to Studio Canal's release of Escape from New York. And there was a similar thing I encountered in that, which was a very nice surprise, is that basically with the bitrate difference, the average bitrate, the compression, all of that made a difference on the image quality, because it does seem like Shout and Scream Factory basically takes Studio Canal's work and basically does some more work on top of it to make it look even better and not over compress it. So this is another instance where the Shout and Scream Factory release has a much better and much more pleasing image, especially because The Fog is a dark movie anyways. I mean, it's a really dark movie throughout it. And I'm not meaning like violent. I'm meaning it's dark because most of it takes place at night, just like what you've seen from those images above. But the HDR presentation on this does look better, where when it does have those light scenes where there's like a light coming out of the darkness, or the fog is lit up and coming out of the darkness, things like that, it looks much better on this release, and I was surprised at how much better it looked on this. Now, talking about average bitrate, which is another huge reason why the image looks so different between the two of them when you're watching it. The average bitrate on the original Studio Canal release was hovering right around 62 megabits per second, rough average through the entire movie. Now, that does mean there was big drops throughout that as well, but that's kind of where that average comes from. It accounts for those as well. But that gives you an idea. You take that 62 megabits per second, and in comparison to the Shout and Scream factory release on 4K, this averaged with a very healthy and very nice average bitrate of right around 83 megabits per second. And there was some instances where it went really high with a bitrate, but it never had those massive, huge drops where it went down to below 20, like the Studio Canal had, where it would drop down to below 20 megabits per second. And that's why it had such a lower average bitrate, where Shout Factory and Scream Factory really did a great job with the average bitrate, not over compressing it, which is what really helps with a dark film. And I'll give you an example. On 4K Ultra HD releases, when a film's really, really dark throughout it, that average bitrate makes a drastic difference of what you see with basically fluctuations, the lights to darks. It makes a drastic difference on the stability of the image. And that is where the Shout and Scream factory release really came out ahead. That average bitrate makes a big difference. Now, when I was going through and comparing those really low drops that the Studio Canal got, they were completely gone on this. This doesn't have any of those drops that went down to the 20s at all. Like, you would have it drop down to like 60, 65, when the Studio Canal release would drop down to like 10, 15 megabits per second. That's a big difference between the two and shows how much better of a job Scream and Shout Factory really did with their 4K release, not over compressing and trying to dumb down the image more to fit it on a smaller disc. Now, if you haven't done so already, make sure to give this video a like, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. And if you want to support this YouTube channel and support the creation of these videos, because I'm not sponsored by anybody or paid by anybody, the only way I can continue to create any of this exclusive content is through all of you, my viewers' support. So make sure to consider joining my VIP Collectors Club. That's the best way to support the creation of these YouTube videos and to support my YouTube channel so that I can keep creating all of this exclusive content that all of you enjoy watching. But joining that VIP club costs you less than the price of a cup of coffee each month, and that really does make a difference for my YouTube channel and helps me to be able to keep providing you all of this content. So please make sure to support this channel and join the VIP club. Now, next thing up we've got is audio, another big change between them. So, on Scream and Shout Factory's release, you do get a brand new audio mix. You get an English Dolby Atmos, and I will say it was a treat. No, it's not the best one I've ever heard, like what I heard on Dune and things like that I've talked about before. But for a classic 1980s horror thriller movie, it did add some cool elements where you could hear like the fog and the creatures and things like that. And it did add a cool element to it that I thought was a really nice addition that the Studio Canal release does not have an option for. You don't get it. It's simply something Scream and Shout Factory did for their release that's exclusive to this release on 4K Ultra HD. So it's another one up. Now, there's another big up. This also gets an English, newly restored original mono mix. That is the first time it's been released as well by Shout and Scream Factory. That is not included on Studio Canal's release at all. So the nice thing is Shout and Scream Factory gave us all the audio mixes that you got on the Studio Canal release, but they went an extra mile, just like what they did with the image and the disc and things like that. They went the extra mile to give us that Dolby Atmos mix, plus that new restored original mono track, which is a nice addition. So that way, no matter what audio mix you want, if you want to watch it in the English DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, or you want to watch it in the Dolby Atmos, or you want to watch it in the original mono, they even have just a 2.0 track, which isn't the newly restored one. So you get every audio option you could possibly want, all the original audios plus the new ones, all included in Shout and Scream Factory's release, which is another huge one up that Shout and Scream Factory get, not excluding any of the audio options for us, giving us every one of them, including new ones, that Studio Canal didn't give us at all. So again, another one up for Shout and Scream Factory. And I will say, I really enjoyed the Dolby Atmos. It was a fun mix. And when something is fun and it adds something new to the movie, since I've seen it on the Studio Canals numerous times before, it was nice and added a new element that made it exciting to watch the film again and hear things coming from a little bit different angles and different areas. I enjoyed it, and I thought Dolby Atmos was a fun mix. And I did like that they gave me the original restored mono mix, which that's a nice thing because I liked listening to that too because I didn't have that option before. Now, talking about the Dolby Vision and HDR10, as far as that goes, I did reference it earlier on, that the Dolby Vision and HDR10 I did think came out looking just slightly better on Shout and Scream factories because of, if you've noticed above, I think the colors look just slightly better. The whites are whiter, it's a more brighter when the lights are coming out at you. Now obviously the dark image and the black areas, the black's inky black between both of them on that anyways. Other than those fluctuations where you see those, the actual inky black areas, it's inky black. But it's the lights between the two of the releases that you really notice the difference. Like if there's a lamp or any of those brighter scenes where it's coming out of the darkness, a fire, things like that, that's where you notice that on Shout and Scream factories, it does look better and does come across better on that HDR presentation than what Studio Canal had. But again, I think that's all done to basically Studio Canal's release that they released is then reworked by Scream and Shout Factory, and they do a bunch of touch-ups and extra things to it to make it look even better. So that's a nice addition. Now, talking about the SteelBook here, I will show you this. I love the cover art, if you can see that. It has like shiny pieces of metal with the swords. I love the artwork on this. Compared to Studio Canal's release, I thought Studio Canal's release was kind of cool. It's kind of silvery and metallic, but it's not nearly as cool of an artwork as what Shout Factory and Scream Factory did. So another one up comparing the SteelBooks, hands down the Shout and Scream Factory one, I do like the artwork a whole lot better. Showing you what you get on the side here, it says the fog here on it. Then when you get to the back here, this is your J card. It talks about your special features, talks about the new things, that you get the new Dolby Atmos track, the new restored original mono I touched on. Then it also talks about the special features on here. Special features, they've got everything you could possibly ever want on here. I went through a bunch of them and didn't see anything that was missing between them. This one has everything that you could possibly ever want special features wise for the fog. Now when you get to the back here, it's got a pretty cool artwork here. I like the glowing eye there. I really thought that was kind of cool, and I do like the back of the SteelBook better than what Studio Canal had as well. Now when you get inside here, there's the inside of your SteelBook, and then it has your disc artwork on here. Now, touching on my Studio Canal review score here. Now, for the Studio Canal release on 4K UltraHD, like I said, I have numerous copies of this. But I thought it looked good. It just wasn't outstanding, one of the best transfers ever because of the fluctuations, the blocking, and all the things I referenced earlier on in this review. So for the Studio Canal release, this one gets an 8.4. And it's a good review score. It was a good release. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't outstanding or amazing. It was one of those that there was things I thought could have been done better. I mean, obviously the BD66 I felt like was too small of a disc for what the content was that they were sticking on it. Obviously it did have those compression issues and things like that, which all compiled to that 8.4 review score. Now, getting to Shout and Scream Factory's 4K UltraHD release. Now, because of all the things I listed off that are one-ups and much better done on the Shout and Scream Factory release, so the fog from Shout and Scream Factory gets an outstanding review score of 9.3. This is the ultimate edition of the fog to own on 4K UltraHD. I don't care where you live worldwide, this is the edition you need to own if you are a fan of John Carpenter's The Fog and you want to own this in the ultimate and best quality on 4K UltraHD that's been released yet. It is this edition from Shout and Scream Factory. Everything I went over in my exclusive testing really showed the difference. As you've been able to see in those screenshot comparisons above, there are levels of improvement throughout it that make this a worthwhile addition and actually a worthwhile upgrade that I was happy I went and spent my money to create this review for all of you, because now I'm gonna keep this and I'm gonna get rid of my Studio Canal releases. There's no reason for me to keep any of them because this is the only way I'm gonna watch The Fog, especially that later on scene, if most of you know what I'm talking about, with the glowing cross at the end. That had such horrible compression and fluctuations, and oh my, there were so many blockings in that scene that was in that original Studio Canal release that's completely gone from this 4K release of The Fog. That's where you can just see hands down the big difference between it. The stability over on this release of what they did with that BD100 and obviously not over compressing it, the bit rate on this being so much better that it creates that just so much better stability throughout it is just such a great job by Shout and Scream Factory to really give us something to spend our money on that was worthwhile and is a noticeable upgrade when you see them side by side. And that's why I know so many of you requested for me to do this review, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get this done. I'm having some health issues, so I'm going in to see some specialists. I might have to go in for surgery. So I've been dealing with a lot of pain and issues lately on top of all the pain I live with from my chronic nerve damage. And it's been a struggle trying to get all these videos done and all this content out as fast as possible for all of you. But I did this and got this out for you all so that way you can know the difference between the two. If you are going to pick this up and add this to your collection though, please make sure to click through those links below, the Amazon links I posted in the description section and as a pinned comment below. That does help to support this channel and helps the creation of these videos just a tiny bit at no extra cost to you. So make sure if you're going to pick up any of these releases, make sure to click through those links, those Amazon links I posted below. But as far as buying which release you should get, this is the one you need to buy. This is, as of right now, the ultimate release of the Fog that has been released on 4K Ultra HD. It is a great job by Shout and Scream Factory to step up Studio Canal's release, not just throw it on disc and say, here's the same thing that came out before, but to rework it, add some nice additions to it. That Dolby Atmos was a lot of fun. And when you get this release of the Fog, make sure to comment below how much you enjoyed the Dolby Atmos or the other new audio mixes that are included in this. I liked all those extra additions. That way, no matter what audio mix you want, you've got all the options on this release, which is what really made this the ultimate release of the Fog. Make sure to start that conversation down below in the comment section. Let me know if you're going to get the SteelBook release now that I've showed this off, if you're going to get the regular release from Shout and Scream Factory. Let me know if you own the previous Studio Canal and now you're going to be upgrading. And I always love to hear from all of you. So hopefully this settles the debate for you in your mind of which one is the one you need to buy, which one is the one you need to own, and which one is the best release of the Fog on 4K Ultra HD. As always, these are always exclusive videos that you're only going to find here on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure to join my VIP Collectors Club so that I can continue to create all of this exclusive content that all of you enjoy and look forward to watching here on my YouTube channel. I can only do this through all of your support, and it costs you less than the price of a cup of coffee to join my VIP club each month. But that goes into this channel and it makes a night and day difference in me being able to continue to afford to create all this content for all of you. As most of you know that have watched this channel for a while, it takes me on average 3 to 4 days of testing, pulling all the data off of the discs and going side by side to get all of this to provide for all of you. So make sure to join my Collectors VIP Club or give a super thanks through the super thanks button down below. You can give a tip of any amount through that as well. Now I did also announce just recently I'm working on Real Genius, the 4K versus Blu Ray image comparison. That's going to be coming out soon here on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet either, make sure to go subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. But I am going to have that coming out soon. It's just I want to get this out as soon as possible for all of you because I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of messages, comments, and questions asking if I was going to do this one. So I wanted to get this out to all of you as a surprise. As always, I hope all of you have a blessed day. And I've always got something new and exciting coming out very soon.